I used to think that the only metric by which you could measure success and the only metric by which you ever actually put time into regarding your success and the goals that you have in life, I used to think that that metric was effort. So the only thing that ever mattered in life was just effort. There's a lot of uh, stuff on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and social media everywhere with these guys like Jocko Willink and um, another one might be, oh, what is his name? David Goggins and some of these other guys. Don't get me wrong, I love them to death, and I do think that they have a really potent message. But like the thing about it, especially people like myself, with some of the things I've gone through, like I always had this idea that the only thing that mattered was effort, like writ large. Like if I saw an outcome in my life or in somebody's life that seemed suboptimal, I just chalked it up to a judgment based on lack of effort every single time. And that was based on kind of the values I was raised by from family and stuff like that. But I can't really explain exactly, I don't think, why, other than, like I said, I think I was just raised with the innate value of effort being all that mattered until that recently changed, which I'll explain in a second. But I kind of just feel like effort is something that we have to put effort into things. But I think I think looking at life as though effort is the only metric for success is extremely appealing because it puts 100% of responsibility on you, because you are 100% of responsible for the effort that you put in, I would say. Or at least as responsible as humanly possible, right? Effort isn't something that we look at as a passive thing or something outside of us. It's external. We look at effort as something like, I put in the effort, I'm the one responsible for that effort, right? And so this means that if you're successful and you frame success as based solely on effort, then that means that you're 100% responsible for your success. And that's a really appealing thing to sell people. But as I said before, beware the people selling shovels, because I really don't think that that's all it is anymore. And I don't like to think like that, but I think that there are, at least for me, and I'm sure there's other people that are going to have their extra little things that they think are in addition to effort. But at least for me, I have three other things that I think also contribute to success that are significantly overlooked when it comes to effort. And not only that, but do I think these things almost have an equal, if not more important balance when it comes to effort. So, and like I said before, in case I somehow missed it, I'm specifically talking about effort towards a goal. Like if, let's say you have a goal of retiring, like there's those people that go do FIRE, which is financial independence, retire early. Those like those guys, right? Well, if you're looking at your financial success from the perspective of effort alone and only effort, then it's very appealing to move towards the goal. And then when you get to that goal, you're like, I did 100% of the work. It was all me. And there was no one else, no external factors, nothing like that. And that's a really appealing thing for people to be in. And there are actually people that I think are able to do that. I actually don't think that that's an unreasonable world. I don't think that people that believed that ended up successful falsely. Let's put it that way. The problem is that there are people that put 100, 150%, 200% effort in, and they don't end up where they're supposed to go. They don't end up in, I know this from experience, where you put in 200% effort, 150% effort, you go above and beyond every single day towards a goal, and for whatever reason, you never end up there. And you're just kind of dazed and confused as to what to do with yourself. And I kind of want to elaborate on what I think the other metrics for success are that these sort of bigger YouTubers just don't talk about, and like I said, YouTubers and influencers and all that stuff. And I really feel strongly about this because a lot of these guys are not going to sell the things I'm about to say. They're just not going to do it because it's not appealing to sell these things. So if effort is one aspect, I'm kind of going to break it up into a pie chart where I think it's, let's say, for instance, let's say 25% of effort, 25% of each of the next things, then you got 4 pieces of a pie. So each of these has, let's say, 25% impact on success, okay? Now, that's just a bad example, but for the sake of this episode, like, that's kind of how I'm going to approach this. So I think the first thing is definitely effort. I think 25% of success, at least, is effort. The second part is luck. Because you don't just, I've heard this said a lot recently from some people that where it's like, you just don't get lucky. People don't get lucky. Bro, that is the biggest load of horse manure I've ever heard. If you, let me explain it this way. If you don't believe in luck and you get lucky, then I don't know how to say this, but I feel like that's a very convenient thing to say. I agree that there are ways that we can increase our luck, okay? But people that are blind to that don't understand how to increase their chances of luck, which I can explain in a second, they definitely have a higher, people that can't increase their odds, so to speak, they're completely up to luck. I'll give you a fantastic example of good luck and bad luck. That luck, and also, by the way, luck I'm basically describing as the right opportunity landed in my lap and I didn't do any additional work to get that opportunity, and I completely view that as luck. You can almost look at luck as like the opposite of effort, maybe. I don't know, but that's just kind of how I see it. When I graduated college, I needed to intern in order to get my degree, and I interned at a church, and when I had to start shopping for churches to go intern at, right? Or I just needed to do some digital media. And so I picked a church. And when I was doing this, I found a church that I wanted to intern with. And they said no, but they said, hey, here's another church. And then I talked to that person. And that person said, yeah, come on over. And then I was there for like 5 minutes. And this guy says, hey, there's someone here at the church that runs a media company that does real estate photography. He'd hire you in an instant. And I was like, that's cool. Okay. It was like I didn't apply to a job. I didn't do any effort in getting that job. You could say I did because I was doing the internship, but I'm calling this luck because I was not looking for this job at all. I was looking specifically to intern. So what happened is I got a phone call a week later from this guy running this real estate photography company. And I said, hey, what's up? And he said, you want a job? And I said, sure. This was right before the pandemic, and it just landed in my lap. I got lucky, 100% lucky, okay? And that being said, I put effort into the beginning of, sort of how that got lined up, but I feel like I rolled Snake Eyes in Dungeons and Dragons. Like I just D&D to Snake Eyes or D&D to D20, okay? So I don't really feel like I did not go out of my way to find that job. And so because of that, I feel like there was just luck involved, okay? So like I said, number 1 is effort. Number 2, I think, is luck. Number 3 is skill, because, and this kind of becomes the glue between the luck and the effort, right? Because the effort you put in is all you. The luck that you put in is none of you. And then the skill is somewhere in between that sort of ties it all together, right? And so number 3, I would say, is the skill. The reason this person decided to hire me is because I spent years learning digital media and how to make it good. And so it wasn't just a one-off random thing. It was like, hey, here's proof that you can kind of figure out what you're doing with digital media, right? So that impacted the luck involved. But like I said, I put effort into gaining that skill set. And so that being the best case scenario, and that being the example I sort of give, skills are things that we put all our time in. And what's really interesting about skills is I feel like they remove the necessary effort. It's kind of like one of those weird math formulas where, like, the more skill you have, sometimes the less effort you have to put in. Do you know what I mean? Like, there are people that we think out there that can do incredible things effortlessly. And that's because they've taken all their effort and put it in so deeply into their skills then they can just do something so skillfully that we could never understand how they do it, but it's effortless to them. This is a stupid example, but I'm sure there's tons of people out there like this where my family members are not tech savvy. And so if they ask me something regarding like a problem with their computer and I just do it in 2 seconds, it's effortless to me. But they're like, how did you do that? That's crazy. And it's like, I just spent years on computers. So I just have good general long-term computer skill usage. You know what I mean? Like, it's not complicated and it's not effortless because I put some effort over the course of many years to get good at understanding computers. But you can kind of see what I mean, where it's like, I think that skill is a huge factor. And so you can kind of take effort, luck, and skill and sort of tie them together, and you got 75% of the pie. And now think about a lot of these guys that are like super successful billionaire entrepreneur guys. Maybe not Jocko Willink and David Goggins, but the big finance bros guys that are like, start your own company and do this thing and make $10 million overnight and save and like invest all your money. Like, these guys are trying to sell you on effort, and they're saying you can just do it all on effort, and they are not talking about skills. Or if they are, they're not going to teach you the skills they have, because the skills they have make them valuable and not as opposed to you. And so that changes the whole dynamic, if you know what I'm saying, right? And so I guess the sort of the way I want to summarize this, like I said, is luck, skill, and effort all combine to sort of create this incredibly sort of complex, it's not really that complex, but it creates a complex framework instead of just being like this sort of like end all be all. It's all effort. It's all, I put 110% work in. You can see how the idea of it being all based on effort is really appealing, but it's still lacking the things that you don't have control over, right? You're selling skills that you put effort into, and those skills are something that you can't ignore. And you also can't ignore your luck. And while I'm on the topic of luck, you can increase your luck by dice rolling a lot. This is something that I wanted to mention in case it wasn't obvious, because it took a long time for me to learn this. But if you want to get lucky with success, you have to roll the dice over and over and over again. If in order to become successful, let's say that you need to land a client, and that client is the same thing as a dice roll that's a D20 in Dungeons & Dragons. For those who don't play it, that's a 20-sided dice. Imagine rolling a 20-sided dice, and you need to have a 20 in order to land a client. That is a 1 in 20 chance. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's 5%. It's been a second. It's about 5% chance, I'm pretty sure. That being said, you have a 5% chance, and that's still pretty high, by the way, 5% chance when you roll that dice that you're going to get a client. If you roll that dice and you don't get a client, do you see how you put in the effort to roll the dice, but you didn't get the client? So it's more than just effort. You need to put effort into rolling the dice again to increase your luck. The more times you roll that dice, the more times you have opportunities for that dice to roll a D20. And so you can kind of see that luck is something that you can find ways to manipulate if you figure out how to look at certain things in life as a numbers game. If, as an example with this channel and this series, I look at the analytics sometimes, and I think to myself, I really want, to be successful on this in a way where I'm reaching sort of my goals with outreach, and I'm really sort of changing people's lives, hopefully, I'd like to hope, with the things that I have to say. And what I sort of do, I don't really care about views at all. You know what I care about? Impressions. The reason I care about impressions is it's the only thing that I feel like is showing me that YouTube is doing something. Because if I see impressions and I go, okay, YouTube is at least showing my stuff to people. You see? And so that from there on, it's a numbers game. As long as the impressions are there, then I go, okay, if something isn't working, then it's not a matter of YouTube not showing it to people. Then it's a situation where it's like, okay, my thumbnail wasn't good, or, this didn't work, or that worked, or that title worked, you see? So if you kind of turn a lot of the things in life into a numbers game when it comes to if you put in effort, let me rephrase it, I'm so sorry. If you put in effort and you're not noticing a return, you can see if there's a world where you can turn it into a numbers game. Assuming, like I said, you're still using your skills with all this stuff, the skills that you have, whatever they are. And if you just turn it into a numbers game, what it sort of effectively does is it reaches this point where all of your effort isn't going into that one dice roll. It's like you're conserving effort, if that makes sense, into multiple dice rolls. And then you just make it about the dice rolls until you become successful. And these guys out there that go, I got successful without luck, I don't agree with that. I think that they rolled the dice over and over and over and over and over and over again, and they put the time in rolling those dice. Every video I make is a dice roll. I'm rolling this dice over and over and over and over again. But I don't care because that's what I want to do. And I like it. And it doesn't bother me that every video is a dice roll because I'm putting the effort in to, I'm kind of balancing the way that I do this channel around a comfortable level of effort, skill, and luck, if that makes sense. Now, you may remember that I mentioned a fourth one, and I've saved it for this point because it's a little special. Like I said, if number one is effort, number two is luck, and number three is skill, I think number four is the things we're blind to. So I'll say blindness. What I mean by that is all of the other crap that's going on that we can't see. So like, we can only see 75% of the pie that's making us successful. So, or is it making us successful? So if we're lacking success, there's a good chance that 25% of the reason or something, I'm guessing, I'm not claiming to know the right percent. I'm just saying a percentage of the pie that is keeping us from being successful is something that we are blind to. The hope is that that piece of the pie is minimal, and it's not actually 25%. Realistically, I don't even think the percentages matter. I think it's more just that there's four pieces of the pie and that we would like to hope that they're balanced in a way that's comfortable for us, right? But we can't deny that there are things that we're blind to. I'll just come right out and say it. I lived exclusively on effort for around 20 years, 25 years, trying to be successful in things in my career and completely misunderstood that there were elements of my brain that were not functioning in a way that were optimal. So I spent every single day of my life working so hard to stay motivated, to stay disciplined, to follow a calendar, to follow a schedule, to do all this stuff. And I worked so hard to do this every single day of my life, day in and day out. And I put in 100% of effort and did not care about luck or skill at all. And just said it, and hoped and prayed that it was going to work out because I just put in an unbelievable amount of effort and burned out every time, not realizing that I can't feel some of those things, that I have time blindness, that I can heal a little bit, but it's kind of permanent. I have time blindness. I have no ability to have internal motivation. I have all of these different things as a result of ADHD that I can't outright. I can build scaffolding for them, but I was blind to them. Since I was blind to a lot of this stuff, I put in 200% effort to move the needle that everybody else could move effortlessly, or at least seemed effortlessly, right? I would work jobs. I would meet people saying, how do you do this and why? And man, that sounds really hard. And they go, no, it's not that hard. But for me, it's insanely hard because I'm just like, how can you do things consistently over time? I didn't understand how people were able to do that until someone finally sat me down and explained it in a doctor's office, you know? And so it's crazy because you can put in all the effort, all the luck, all the skill, and there's still something missing. And you just don't even know it. You're like, oh, that was what was missing. I didn't understand. And for me, it was a big piece of the pie. So now that I'm not blind to that, hopefully, like I feel like that's made a huge difference in my life. But if you're living life right now in a way that's like, you're just putting 100% of effort in and you're not thinking about the skills that you have and you're not thinking about luck, there are like you don't have to feel like if it's not working out, you have to beat yourself up, man. Like you don't have to beat yourself up if the effort you're putting in isn't getting you the results you want. Because that's kind of what a lot of this stuff does. It makes you feel like you're supposed to beat yourself up because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not successful after like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months of putting 200% effort in. What's going on? I don't understand, right? And you gotta recognize that you do not have to beat yourself up. You don't. You can scale back and think, okay, how much effort am I putting in? What are the skills that I have that I'm using my effort on, right? What what thing am I pushing every single day, either on other people or to help other people or whatever. What skills am I using? How lucky am I? And how can I increase that luck? Okay. As a simple point with the luck, like I've applied to over 100 jobs on Indeed and on ZipRecruiter and all these and LinkedIn and stuff. I got 8 replies. They were all automated no's. I got 92 rejections. Okay. That is what we call bad luck. That is bad luck. And it's in the sense that it's at some point I'm unlucky, and I'm not necessarily unlucky just outright. It's like I feel like I'm willing to accept that I am applying for jobs in an economy that's not optimal. That is bad luck. And more importantly, I could take my resume and I could run it through some AI generation tool to make sure that it's going to go through their filters, and I could do all that stuff, but I recognize that there's something bigger for me that I want to do that isn't necessarily with all of that in the way, right? And so it's like it's bad luck for me to apply to a job in this market, but it doesn't have to, but there's ways for me to sort of mitigate that. And there are solutions that I'm trying, like I said, that are more on my own. And with everybody out there, like, you don't have to feel responsible for effort not being enough. Because sometimes effort isn't enough. There are those extra elements to it that you got to remember are still a thing. Even if we don't want to believe they are, they are. Even if we're blind to them, they are. Because people will put in 150% effort and not even realize that that effort is translating to their luck and to their skills and to the things they're blind to. So they just end up successful one day and they're like, yeah, it was 100% effort. And they don't even realize that they rolled the dice every day to increase their luck. And they were extremely skilled in what they were doing. And so don't beat yourself up. Scale back. If the effort's not working, scale back. Figure out, what can I do to sort of make this work better? How can I make this make more sense? How can I reevaluate this? Because if you put that 200% work in, you can do that, but not only do you not have to, but it's not worth the mental health. It's not worth being miserable putting 200% in when you only got to put in 30% effort. Imagine being able to put in 30% effort on 100 coin flips a day, 100 dice rolls a day. You put in 30% effort on just those coin flips and those dice rolls using extremely, extremely well-communicated skills. You see what I mean? It's just a much different world and a much different perspective, because you don't have to make it all about the responsibility that you have towards that outcome. We all eat that crap up, I think, with digital media, because it's just a really easy sell. But I'd like to believe there's more to it than just us.